welcome to this update on what's going on with Jakarta EE. My name is Ivar Grimstad. I'm the Jakarta EE developer advocate at Eclipse Foundation, and I'll take you through these presentations. I do have Jakarta stickers here, so anybody who wants stickers, just come up to me afterwards and I'll give you some. Stickers are important. So, who am I? Well, my name is Ivar Grimstad. This is my Twitter handle and my LinkedIn coordinates. I'm a Java champion. I'm a member of the executive committee in the Java community process, and I'm involved in the Jakarta EE working groups, as well as working as a Jakarta EE developer advocate at Eclipse Foundation. I'm also involved in Apache NetBeans, and I run the local JUG in Malmö in Sweden. So what I'm going to talk to you here today, I'll talk about Jakarta EE, Jakarta EE 9, Jakarta EE 10, 11, 12, 13. No, I'm actually just kidding. What I will do is to talk about Jakarta EE, then I'll talk about Jakarta EE 9 and then how to contribute. So whether we will get on that release train just pouring out releases that way or whatever, that is up to you. And I'll show you how to get involved in the future of contributing to Jakarta EE. So you all seen the logotype. I have the stickers, so it's a nice sailing ship, and this is how you get familiar with Jakarta EE. If you see the sailing ship out there, then that's us. So I also want to point you to one thing you should remember from today. If you take one thing away from this talk, it is this. Jakarta.ee, that's where you go to find the information. I'll open this page for you. So let's go to Jakarta.ee. This is a web page. So if you remember one thing is Jakarta.ee, that's where you find the information. Here you can see all the specifications we got. I'll click through the site a little bit more later, but Jakarta.ee, that's the thing to remember after this presentation. So, Jakarta EE is all about open specifications. And to have open specifications, it's a little bit different from an open source project, but because to have open specifications, it means we need to have some sort of specification process. And we've created a Jakarta EE specification process to help us with that, or JESP for short. And the Jakarta EE specification process is it's about using proven technologies. So we want to have a code-first approach, and it's very collaborative in the way that there are no spec leads or expert groups as we're used to from the JCP. So everybody has a voice, everybody is equal. There are the notion of project leads, but a project lead is just more responsibility, it's not more influence. So it's very collaborative, it's welcoming, everybody can join, everybody can contribute to the specifications. Everything is open source, even the TCKs. So as we were used to from the JCP, the TCKs were closed source, so you have to pay to get the TCK in order to certify a project. Here it's open source, you can actually contribute to the TCK, and if you're not agreeing with how the TCK is doing things, and you mean it's doing it wrong, you can send a pull request or file a bug against it, and you can get it fixed. So, and you can go in and fix the bug yourself. So that's a very important change from how it used to be, is that everything is open source. It's not one reference implementation anymore. You remember Glassfish from the JCP. That was the reference implementation. It was, this product was showing that the specifications are doing its job. But here we have the notion of compatible implementation. So it doesn't have to be Glassfish. We're still using Eclipse Glassfish as within the Eclipse Foundation as implementation of the specifications, but there are other implementations out there. And if another one is out there before Glassfish, that's fine. It's just one other compatible implementation, and we need to have at least one open source compatible implementation in order to release the spec. And it's all about self-certification. So we trust you. If you certify your project and say, hey, I'm compatible, that's fine. and you are, and you can get listed as it. But if you want to use the compatible trademark logo and say this is a compatible product, then some payments stuff kicks in, and you have to be a member of the working group and so on. But you can say that, hey, I'm certified, I'm using this product, I'm implementing all these specs, and it doesn't cost anything. We have a spec project process. It's very similar to one in the JCP. It's very similar to the Eclipse development process. So it's just the same process as any open source project would use. There are some additions to it, like we have the specification committee doing a review at the end of the release review to get it ratified as a final specification. So there are some small extra steps added to a regular open source project. So what is a specification then? And what is Jakarta EE all about? Well, I've mentioned that we have the document that describes the technology. We have the API. So we have the API that is the classes and interfaces that defines the specification. And you have the technology compatibility kit that verifies that an implementation fulfills the spec. And all of this is these kind of specification artifacts. In addition to this, we have the compatible implementations, which can be, at least one of them has to be open source. The other ones can be closed source if they want. I'll list a couple of implementations afterwards. And when we have at least one compatible open source implementation of a specification, we have a final specification. And currently, we have these 4 compatible implementations of Jakarta EE. And they're all listed as Jakarta EE compatible. On the way, there is a certification request filed by Tmaxsoft from Korea, and their application server called JUICE. So I guess in a week or 2 or so, they will get listed here as well. So what should you remember from this? Jakarta.ee, right? So let's look a little bit of how this page looks like. Get away from this. There you go. So as you see, this is the main page. The most important link here is, at least for you as developers, is the specifications. So here you can go in and look at the various specifications, list them, and on top here you see the Jakarta EE platform, the web profile, and all the other specifications out there, Jakarta batch, bean validation, etc., etc. So you have all the specifications listed here. And let's go in and look at, for example, the platform project. Here you can see we have a Jakarta EE8 platform release, and you can see here all the specification documents, the artifacts, the TCK, and how it was ratified as a specification. So this is kind of like the status page of the JSRs in the JCP. And we also list the compatible implementations here. There are more of them. They just haven't filed a pull request to get listed there yet. And if we go back to the platform, you can also see that we have a platform version 9 under development. So I'll go through 9 in a bit. So if you go to some of the other specifications, for example, bean validation here, you can see also that we have bean validation 2.0, which is a part of Jakarta EE8. And we have bean validation 3.0, which is under development for Jakarta EE9. So here you can see, go in and see what's the release plan for bean validation, and et cetera, et cetera. So you can follow what's going on and go and see what has been made. So let's go back to the slides. There we go. So that brings us over to Jakarta EE9. And for Jakarta EE9, we have a couple of focus areas. And we've made this drawing here to visualize it. And the three focus areas that we have identified for this release is to lower the entry barriers, it's to create a platform for future innovation, and it's facilitate easy migration from previous versions. So that's kind of the three main themes of Jakarta EE 9, and I'll go through each of these. So the Jakarta EE 9, to lower the entry barriers, that means make it easier for new implementations to adopt this spec. So if there is a new vendor out there that wants to create a new implementation of Jakarta EE, we want to make it easier. And by doing, and what we do to do that is to remove old stuff that people aren't using anyway. So we're removing some of the optional APIs of the previous version of the platform, some of the deprecated APIs, some of the stuff that we know people aren't using anymore, like some of the EJB 2.0 stuff, and a lot of the old XML stuff that isn't used anyway. So why should we force a new vendor to implement it if nobody's using it anyway? So this is kind of to slim down the runtimes and make it easier for new implementations to implement the spec. So we're removing a lot of old stuff. We also want to make it a platform for innovation. So we kind of set the foundation for future innovation. So this version of the platform will mostly be about tooling and the migration from the Jakarta EE to Jakarta EE 9. And then we have a platform ready there. We have all the processes verified. We've released 2 releases through the Jakarta EE specification process. And we are ready to start the innovation in the future. And the third theme is to make it easy to migrate. So what we want to do is not to add too much new stuff in here, because we want to make it easier for the implementations to facilitate the namespace switch that we are going to do. Because one of the biggest things with Jakarta EE 9 is that we are moving away from the javax namespace over to the Jakarta namespace. And that involves a lot of work for the implementations and also for the applications that are using Jakarta EE 8 or Java EE 8 today to move over. So we want to make that as easy as possible. So it's more or less going into your tool, your IDE, and fix the packages. And so we don't want to add too much of the API changes yet. So you have to figure out what I'm going to use since this isn't there anymore. So it's more about making it as easy as possible to move from the javax namespace to the Jakarta namespace, and both for the application developers, but also for the implementation. So they can create tooling support. So if you have an old application using the javax namespace on Jakarta EE 8 or even Java EE 8, it should be able to run on a Jakarta EE 9 compatible product. So to fix that backwards compatibility, we don't want to introduce too much. That's why easy migration is one of our important themes. So to sum up, this is Jakarta EE 9 in a nutshell. It's lower the entry barriers, it's a platform for future innovation, and it's facilitate easy migration. So one of the things we are doing or the major thing we're doing in Jakarta EE 9, yes?
Question on the migration. Do you expect the vendors to provide the necessary tooling for that? Or?
Okay, so the question is, do we expect the vendors to provide the necessary tooling? And yes, we do. We don't specify that they have to. We leave it to the vendors to solve this problem. We tried to consider, should we make it a part of the specification that there has to be a tool? And we decided, leave that to the vendors, that's their competitive advantage. If one of the vendors does it better than the other, that's a competitive advantage for them. If they want to contribute back and create a foundation for common tooling, that's fine. We're open for that, and that's awesome if they do that. But I think it's probably different how they solve it within the different implementations, depending on what kind of module systems they're using and everything, how they implement it. So it's probably hard to create a common tooling, But if they do, that's good. And if somebody from the community does, that's awesome. But I think that's something we just have to trust the vendors to do. So why do we need to change this name? And you're probably all aware of that Java is a trademark, and Java is a trademark of Oracle, and Oracle have to protect this trademark, and there's nothing weird about that. It's their trademark, and if they start letting people using it, it will kind of ripple through, and Java will not be that strong trademark anymore, and that will reflect badly back on us, and we will be hurt by it, I think. So it's a good thing that they are protecting their trademark. It's kind of a hassle for us because protecting that trademark means that also that javax is a part of that trademark. So yeah, you can argue whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's the reality we have to live with. And we're doing this switch from javax to Jakarta with the namespace change. And after we've done that, we're kind of out of this trademark thingy with Oracle, and we can just continue doing whatever we want within that namespace, because that's our trademark. We also want to do some deprecation, and as I mentioned, we're removing some APIs, but also spread throughout in the current version of Java E8 and Jakarta E8 is that there are some places where the javadoc tag @deprecated has been used and has been there for a long time, but the @deprecated annotation in the code hasn't been added yet. So we're saying that if you have a deprecated javadoc tag, then please do add a @deprecated to the API as well. It will make some binary incompatibility for the TCK that they signature test and everything they have to figure out, but that's the kind of a technical thing underneath. And it will be clearer for developers also, and the tooling will be better when you have the @deprecated annotation. And some of them do, some of them don't. So we're saying, please do if you have this in your code. And that is something everybody can help with. So if you go through the API on GitHub and see, hey, they have deprecated in the javadoc, send a pull request to deprecated in the API as well and see if it's accepted. That's a good way to be a contributor in an open source project. There are lots of properties around in the Jakarta EE that are using the javax prefix. So what we want to do is to take all the javax properties and change them to Jakarta. This is not a requirement from Oracle. So this is something we want to do for consistency. So all properties will change from javax to Jakarta. So that is also a very easy place to start helping if you're into doing something. We also have repeatable annotation. It has been introduced in many of the APIs, but there are some places where it should have been and hasn't been added yet. So wherever it makes sense to have a repeatable annotation and there isn't one today, then @repeatable to add to the annotation definition. That's also something we encourage the specifications to do. It doesn't mean that @repeatable should be added everywhere, because it doesn't make sense everywhere, but where it makes sense, @repeatable is an okay thing. And these are the kind of things we want to do to make the lower entry barriers, the platform for innovation and the easy migration there. And we don't want to do too much more, because then we put a burden on the implementations and the tool vendors to do more. So we're not innovating very much in this release. It's going to be functionally pretty much similar as Jakarta E8, and from Jakarta E9, this will and further we will start doing the real innovation. So that concludes the Java E9 section of this talk. So what should you remember? Jakarta EE, that's where you're going to find the information. So let's move over to the contributing part. How do I get involved? How do I get to be a part of this project? And, well, this is an easy process, isn't it? So this is how we get involved. It's not harder than that. Well, I'll simplify it a little. So the only thing you need to get started in Jakarta EE whatsoever is to sign a contributor agreement. And this is not different from any other project. If you want to contribute to an Apache project, you have to sign the Apache contributor agreement. If you want to contribute to an Eclipse project, you have to sign the Eclipse contributor agreement. It's just your signature, no employers, no money, no nothing other than that involved. It's just sign this document and you're good to go. And what do you do when you've done that? Well, then you can submit a pull request. So the Eclipse on GitHub will verify that you have signed an ECA when you send a pull request. So if you get a kind of red cross saying you haven't signed the ECA, then sign the ECA and update your pull request, and so you get the message there if you sign it or not. So that's been checked for you there. So you don't even have to know yourself if you have signed it. You just have to send a pull request and see whether it goes through. That's not hard, is it? So let's repeat that step once more. What you need to do is to create an Eclipse account if you don't have one, and then use that email address and sign the ECA, and you're good to go. That's all you need. After a while, if you start submitting pull requests and become a contributor to a specification or an open source project within the Eclipse Foundation, because the specification and the open source projects are exactly the same, you have to sign the ECA and that's it. When you start contributing to that project, you will get notified. So people will say, hey, this person is doing a lot of things. Maybe that we should elect in as a committer or something. So then some of the committers maybe say, hey, maybe we should elect this person as a committer and start an election. So when you contribute a lot, you could be elected in as a committer, as in other open source projects. And then there are some paper mill that kicks in. You don't have to worry about it. They take care of it. You will be asked to sign this in this document. It kind of depends on who your employer is, where you are at, if the employer is a member or not a member, if it's a member of the working group or the Eclipse Foundation. You don't have to think about it. They will take care of it. So whatever happens, just figure out the paperwork with the help of the excellent Eclipse Foundation staff to get through that. The only thing you need to do is to make sure you have signed the ECA, and everything else will be taken care of for you. So where do I find information? Remember this one? So one of the questions we get is often on the mailing list is how do I get involved? What can I do to help? So I'll list a couple of areas where you can help, which is non-technical, or some of them are technical, but you don't have to be a programmer or a coder or understand the technology to help out with this. One of the things that we always need help with is marketing. So whenever you write a blog post, whenever you tweet, just include the Jakarta EE hashtag, and you will help us promote this. Just follow us on social media, on Twitter, share and invite others to participate, and just help by writing blogs, writing articles, and point to us if, hey, you should write an article about this, and then we can write an article. So everything is good and helpful, and just help show that this community is vibrant and alive. So marketing is a very non-technical place where you can do a very large impact. Then, of course, we have the technical work. You can always help with that. And you can work on the specifications by sending pull requests on the APIs or the spec documents. You can fix like spelling errors in the document or formatting errors. We got all the specification documents donated from Oracle, and over the 20 years of the JSP, they have been written in some of them in ASCII-Doc, some of them in Markdown, some of them in Microsoft Word, and some of them in FrameMaker and whatever, and LaTeX, and all of the formats you can think of. And what Oracle has done is to convert these to ASCII-Doc. So all the specifications today are ASCII-Doc on GitHub. But in this conversion process, which is done by tooling, you can miss some formatting and something may not look as nice as it should do. So if you have a good eye for fixing some font errors or some formatting of bullets or whatever, that also helps. So everything is good. Then the more technical thing you can do is actually to help work on the TCKs, which is a pretty difficult thing to do, and it's probably more for those people who are employed by vendors and have worked with the TCKs in there, but it's simply tests. So if you know how to write tests and you know the frameworks used in the TCK, you can always help writing the TCKs or making them clearer. One large piece of work that we are going to do is to take the big bundle of TCKs, which is called the CTS, the Compatibility Test Suite, and split it up into smaller suites per specification, and also have some way of running it for the platform. So we need to agree on some sort of frameworks and some technologies, and what test frameworks are we going to use? Should we standardize on JUnit, or should we standardize on TestNG, or should we use something else? And how to gather the results and collect it together. At the same time, you don't want to dictate too much. This is how we write your test, because it's open source projects. They should do whatever they like. But we want to be able to run it as test suite altogether as well. So that's where it can help with. It's also the implementations. Like if you're using JAX-RS or Jakarta REST as it's called now, and you want to help out with Eclipse Jersey, or with REST Easy, or some other implementation, you can always help writing the implementations that implements the specification, whether it's an Eclipse project or not. It's perfectly okay to go on and contribute to Apache Tommy, for example, or one of the Apache projects that implements these specifications. Like Tomcat is implementing servlet, for example. So you can always go there and contribute to Apache Foundation, and indirectly you will then help out the Jakarta EE. And you can always help us with bugs. You can file bugs, fix bugs, suggest bugs. So that's also, because if we don't know that something is wrong, it won't be fixed. So if you discover something, hey, this should be fixed, I don't know how to do it, file a bug. And if you don't have time to, or want to figure out how to write the spec document, but to see that, hey, this sentence doesn't make sense, then file a bug and say, you should fix this sentence because it doesn't make sense, and maybe give a suggestion how it should be, and then somebody else can pick it up and do it. And also, what we call collateral work, it's everything other around it. If you want to do talks at your local JUG, if you want to do talks at conferences, if you're a JUG leader, if you're running a JUG, we have started a Adopt the Specification program. It's similar to the Adopt the JSR that the JCP used to have. So if you run a JUG and you have a particular interest in some of the technologies, you can sign up to adopt that specification and help the project go on. And that could be anything from just hosting a meetup where you read the specification and proofread it and come with suggestions back and say, hey, you have to fix these spelling errors. It doesn't have to be harder than that. It can go read through and have some coding exercises and check, is it doable, this stuff? Like, I used to be the spec lead for the MVC specification in the JCP, and we had a JUG adopting our spec, and they had a meetup, and they asked, hey, could you be on Google Hangout during our meetups? We want to ask you some questions. So they had they went through all the specification and read the document and there were some unclarities, something they didn't understand. And we had a Google Hangouts live in their meetup, and I answered the questions as good as I could, and that was very helpful for us. And they wrote up some results from their meetup, which we eventually incorporated in the specification. And you get your jug listed at the specification. Hey, we've done something. We've helped the community. So that's very helpful for us. You can always join the Jakarta EE ambassadors. The Jakarta EE ambassadors is an independent grassroots group of people, and they're very committed to moving Jakarta EE forward. They're not associated with Eclipse Foundation other than that they have the right to use our logotype. So we created this Jakarta EE ambassadors logo for them. Other than that, they are independent, and they are kind of making sure that we're moving forward. They are very active in the community. They participate a lot, and they advocate the technology a lot. So it's very helpful. So if you want to join them or start another group of your own, that's perfectly fine, just to help out and spread the community. Any questions so far? All eager to get started coding. Or tweeting, yeah. Please tweet. So before I sum up, I'll go in and look at some of the resources that are available. And remember that no contribution is too small. Just a tweet from this talk is good enough. Visit the booth outside and get some stickers and straws and swag there. If you don't want my stickers, then I can leave it at the booth and you can get them there. But these are some of the resources for you. Remember Jakarta EE, that's kind of the starting point where you go to get started with all the surrounding information of Jakarta. If you want to dive directly into the code, it's under the EE4J GitHub organization. So just remember EE4J and search for it on GitHub, or go to the link from Jakarta EE. That's where you find all the sources. We also have the Jakarta blogs. So this is kind of an aggregator for all the bloggers out there. So if you want to be visible, if you want to have traffic on your blog, if you want to be showing that, hey, I'm writing stuff about Jakarta EE, then there is a button there, get listed. So you just put your information, where's my feed from my blog, and you will get listed there. I'll show you it in a minute. I'm writing my series #Jakarta EE. Anybody read that? Yeah, one. Okay, you don't count, but anyway. so I'm trying to get a weekly blog post out there. I'm calling it #Jakarta EE. I've written 7 of them so far. I'm trying to do one each week. And what I want to do is just to write a little bit about what's going on in the community. So if you've written an article or a tweet or having a meetup or something Jakarta EE related, ping me on Twitter or whatever, and I'll get you listed there. I'll get some mention there. It'll drive some traffic to you. So let's go in and look at some of these resources. So, as I said, this is the Jakarta EE website. If you go into the EE4J GitHub organization, you can see here we have all the project listed, and this is all the implementations of the specifications. So you have Eclipse links and Jersey and etc. And you also have all the API projects, and we can go in and look at, for example, the JSON-P. So here you can see most of them have organized, so they have this API folder, and these also have the implementation here, and they have this spec folder. So under the spec, you can find the sources for the JSON-P specifications. So you see it's all ASCII-doc here. So this is where you find it and can do helpful work on it. So just fork it and send a pull request. On the main page, we have the Jakarta EE platform project, where we track the Jakarta EE 9 release. So if you want to keep updated of how we're doing in the release, you can go in here and see. So you see, we have since we're doing sort of a plan review is kind of the one of the steps in our process. So we did a bundled plan review for the entire platform, but some of the specifications they wanted to do some stuff on their own, like the enterprise beans, which is known as EJB, and also the activation. They're doing their own plan reviews. Otherwise, it's all covered by the specification. And we've started releasing milestone releases, and most of the specification, you can see we have 25 specifications out there. They already have a milestone release of their API jar, so the others can consume it. And this is how we track the steps in the process until we have a ratified final specification, which we are not entirely committed to the date yet, but we are aiming for before summer. If we don't make that date, it will probably be after summer because we need some vacation as well. But we are aiming for before summer. We do have weekly platform calls. So if you want to join us for a weekly platform call, it's every Tuesday at 11 Eastern time. Everybody can join. That's where we discuss the progress of the platform project. The details for this call you can find on the platform project homepage, I hope. Otherwise, join the mailing list and just ask for recurrence and you'll be added to it. So I also wanted to show you the Jakarta blogs. So if you want to get listed here, you can see here Adam Bean is writing a lot of blog posts. He's getting his blog listed here. Here we have a couple of others. You can see all the blogs listed here. All of these guys get their blogs aggregated to this site. So if you want to get listed here among these people, if you have a blog, go here and click Add Your Blog. And here you will get a link to the guidelines and how to do it. So please do, if you have a blog with some Jakarta contents, you can always categorize it. So you just give the Jakarta EE categorize out here if you write about other things. But if you write something about Enterprise Java or Jakarta related stuff, you can get listed here among these, which is a good publicity thing to do. Let's see. So that was what I had today. What I also want to say is, remember that last year we won the Duke Choice Award at Oracle Code 1. So with that, I say thank you very much. And we have plenty of time for questions. And remember the stickers, so just shoot if you have any questions. Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Yes?
For someone running the old Java Deprecation project, how important is to go to Jakarta EE?
So I was saying how important it is for, if you have a Java EE project, how important it is to go to Jakarta EE. Well, if you want to have a platform that is evolving, you have to go to Jakarta EE because there will be no new releases of Java EE. Java EE8 was the last release ever of Java EE. So the next version to go to is Jakarta EE8. It's the migration from Java EE8 to Jakarta EE8. It's just one dependency in your POM file, where you switch the Maven artifact ID from and group ID from the javax the JCP coordinates to the Jakarta coordinates, and that's all you need to do. It's identically the same implementations.
Fully back compatible with all Java EE?
Yes, Jakarta EE8 is 100% fully backwards compatible with Java EE8. From 9, you would have to do some things. We are still committed to backwards compatible but we also want to be able to trim the platform by remove things that are not being used. So we probably will introduce more use of deprecated. So we can remove things because we don't want to have all the legacy stuff if it's not used anymore. But that is up to you, more or less, because if you're a big customer to one of the vendors and you're using some particular technology, then that vendor will make sure that that's a part of the platform in the future as well. Okay then. Yes?
Sorry, it's not really the Java EE version because sadly specification didn't make it in Java EE. But could you give us an update on the MVC specification? Would you be okay to do that?
Yes, so the question is, can I do an update on the MVC specification? And yes, I can do. That's a specification through the JESP. We released MVC 1.0 this January, so it's a final specification now. The reference implementation, because it's a reference implementation in JESP, is an Eclipse project. It's called Eclipse Craso. And what we are planning to do is to move MVC over to Eclipse Foundation under Jakarta EE. So it may be a part of Jakarta EE 10 or 11. It depends on whether people want it in. But I think it makes a perfect complement to JSF for the web profile. So we hope to get it in there. And we are already have started creating the project proposal to move the MVC specification over. So it's ongoing. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conference.